Well, because we're going to review the highlights of the last 12 months in our sports review of the year. So stay tuned over the next couple of hours as we pick out some of the highlights, the big stories, the nuggets that we liked from the sporting environment from the past 12 months. Later on in the afternoon, we will, of course, be talking GAA, where it was another mammoth year for Donegal as they lifted an Anglo-Celt Cup back-to-back under Jim McGuinness once again, and there was that fantastic trip the whole way to the All-Ireland final as well. In motorsport, there certainly has been some major stories in 2025. Our special guest in studio for our rallying section will be Shane Byrne, the Donegal man, of course, who finished second in the European Rally Championship, and next year will go to the WRC with his driver John Armstrong. In athletics, our correspondent Patsy McGonigal will be talking with Chris Ashmore as they look at some of the big stories on the international stage for Northwest athletes. They'll be talking about the likes of Conor Kelly, Katrina Jennings, Mark English and Aaron Freed. And our first section, which will be on the way very, very soon, is around football, Finn Harps Derry City and Letterkenny Rovers. That's all to come over the next couple of hours in Highland Radio Sports 2025 Sports Review of the Year. But before we kick off with the soccer, let's get a sports update and some details on what is happening in the sporting world this afternoon. Here's Kieran Cannon.
Thank you very much indeed, Oisin. We're going to begin a big day for the Sean McCool's club today. It is the Ulster Minor Club Hurling Final. Ballinasgreen is the venue. Midway point of the second half. Sean McCool's 3 points. Rui Og 2-11, so not going the way of the young Hullers from the Sean McCool's club this Sunday afternoon. What about the world of soccer? 2 games in the English Premier League this Sunday afternoon. 8 minutes gone, the Stadium of Light. The newly promoted sides meet Sunderland, taking on Leeds United. Scoreless at the moment in that encounter. 4:30 today, Crystal Palace are hosting Tottenham Hotspur. That's as you are in the world of soccer in the English Premier League today. We're going to turn our attention now to darts. Action continues at the World Darts Championship this afternoon. At the minute, former world champion Rob Cross is facing off against Demon Hita. Already today, Ryan Searle had no issues in beating Martin Schlinder by 4-0. That's at Ali Pali. We will keep you posted regarding the world of darts. But our main point of attention this Sunday afternoon is the sports review of the year with myself, Kieran Cannon, Mark Gallagher, Oisin Kelly, and not forgetting Chris Ashmore as well. Star-studded lineup of special guests joining us throughout the afternoon as well. Joining us now, delighted to say, is former Finn Harps manager, a current Letterkenny Rovers head coach, Anthony Gorman. Anthony, welcome to the studios of Highland.
Hi Kieran, how's things?
All good, Anthony, all good, thank you. We're going to begin with Finn Harps. Chris Ashmore is also with us. Remember, Darren Murphy, he was the manager at the Finn Park Club. He left after 5 matches to go to Loch Gall. 3 losses, 1 draw and 1 victory, and that was against Bray Wanderers in his final game. Head of Academy and club legend Kevin McHugh took over the reins at Finn Park. We're going to begin with you, Anthony. What have you made of Finn Harp's senior team this year, and what was your main highlight from a senior point of view?
Well, I think the way that the season started with Finn Harps and Darren Murphy being in charge of the club, and the timing of his exit from the club was a bit strange because it was in the back of them getting their first victory of the season. But I suppose when the opportunity came for him to move to Loch Gall, which is, I think, it's about 5 minutes away from where he lives, I think the opportunity was too good to turn down. And then the appointment of Kevin McHugh coming in, it was the obvious choice at the time. I think many people within football and especially in Donegal felt that Kevin would have remained on his role at the academy, but he came in and did really well early on, in his tenure. But it was a difficult season for Finn Harps in the fact that that so many young players coming through, and there was a lot of uncertainty, and the main thing about Finn Harps at the moment, the stadium is always to the forefront of people's minds and what's going to happen, and are they going to remain at Finn Park? And I think while that's still in the air, I think it's very difficult for Finn Harps to develop and progress. I think, I know they were granted plan permission recently, but just going back on the season, I think it was a difficult season for them. But on a positive note, the introduction of so many young local boys and giving them their breakthrough season in the League of Ireland was very positive.
Good stuff, Anthony. Good stuff, Anthony. Chris Ashmore also joining us live in the studio in Mountaintop. Chris, Kevin McHugh took over as manager. First 5 games unbeaten. I know they lost the next 3 in a row after that. You're no stranger to Finn Park. How impressed have you been with Kevin McHugh as manager in the 2025 season?
Well, it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a season. If you think that the end of the 2024 season, they finished 6th. This year, they finished 8th. So that suggests in some ways that things have got harder. Against that, and Anthony touched on it, there's been an awful lot of young players coming through, and I suppose that's one of the highlights of the season. A lot of work going on with the youngsters being given the chance. The academy beginning to bear fruit now as players are breaking into senior soccer. And for Kevin, it was always going to be a difficult season. Again, during the summer with the transfer window, not for the first time at Finn Harps in recent years, we've seen quite a different side with players coming in, and it did get stronger. Then they had a good spell initially after the summer, and then the season sort of fizzled out a little bit at the end. So a season of ups and downs, but a lot of work going on behind the scenes and off the field between all the underage sides and, of course, the women's team now, and they've got a lot to look forward to with the senior team next year. The foundations are being laid. The stadium they need that to help complete the jigsaw to get things right there, of course. But there's a feeling within the club, despite maybe on the surface of things and from a distance, it doesn't look as if things are going that well. There's a lot of positivity and a lot of people involved, and probably a better relationship with clubs and other leagues than there's been for a long, long time.
Thank you, Chris. Not many teams, Anthony, beat Dundalk this season. Dundalk returning as champions to the Premier League. Finn Harps beat them back in June. That will give you huge confidence going into next season. Harps beat them 1-0, Finn Park.
Yeah, I think one of the things about Kevin McHugh's tenure at Finn Harps is that while they've lost a lot of games and they haven't won many games, but they've been very difficult to beat. The games that they have lost has been by the odd goal. They haven't taken any big tankings, which for a team that finishes 8th in the division, you would expect that to happen now and again. But over the course of the season, Finn Harps did an awful lot of very positive results and positive performances. And touching on the fact that they were capable of beating the likes of Dundalk, and I think on any given day with the quality, when you have young players coming through, what you don't get is consistency. But on any given day, if the players have enough quality, if they play to their potential, there's always that possibility that they will get the results.
Thank you, Anthony. Finn Harps, they ended their season with a match against UCD. It finished 4-3 to the visitors at Finn Park. Jim Doherty was there for Highland Radio Sport. He got the views of the Finn Harps footballer, local boy, Joel Bradley Walsh, after the game.
I suppose it comes to an end. We probably fell a wee bit short overall. The mood in the camp is we probably underachieved for the year. We never really kicked on after the Cork game. We didn't really turn our eyes towards the league. We struggled, but it's like a graveyard league, really. I suppose any league is, but you're playing 36 odd games. You can't afford to lose 2 in a row. You might be able to lose 1, but you can't afford to lose 2 in a row because you end up in a wee streak of not getting out of it, and then all of a sudden the playoffs are away on you. And the way this league is, you go from 5th to maybe 9th in 3 weeks, and it doesn't sum up your season at all where we finish. But we have to take our medicine, and we need to look forward to next year straight away.
That is the voice of local boy and form, solid at the back, Joel Bradley Walsh, speaking to Jim Doherty after Finn Harps' final game of the season against UCD. Now, one of the positives, lads, Chris Ashmore, one of the positives was the youth structure within the club. And it's no surprise, 3 Finn Harps players selected for the Republic of Ireland under-17 squad. That was for the World Cup. Gavin McAteer, Josh Cullen and Corey Sheridan.
Yes, it was great for the players themselves, also for Finn Harps going to that World Cup in Qatar. And, when you look nationally, I think Shamrock Rovers had 3 or 4 players, but for Finn Harps, it stood out of the clubs outside of Dublin. To have 3 getting there is significant. And not just that, Kieran, I think there was one of the home games towards the end of the season, and the front cover of the programme had a picture, and there was, between the 3 guys who we've just mentioned, and there were a number of other players at under 16, different levels as well, and a couple of girls that I think in the end there was maybe 10 or 11 players who, either for Northern Ireland or Republic of Ireland, had got underage caps in one shape or another. So that shows just how much is going on behind the scenes. And for those guys, Gavin McTeer, Josh Cullen and Corey Sheridan, yes, they got game time with Finn Harps, but as they look back, what an achievement it was getting to Qatar, McAteer and Cullen playing in the group stages there. And, there was huge interest in it, and it'll be interesting in years to come just to look at the players, all of that under-17 squad. You look back, Anthony would remember when Brian Kerr had a crop of great youngsters, and you'd look at people like Trevor Malloy and chart their progress. So it'll be interesting to see out of that under-17 squad, who were drawn from not just within the country, from further afield as well, just where their respective careers go.
Yeah, and Chris did mention that team that Brian Kerr managed. You had Damien Duff there and Robbie Keane, so could there be a Gavin McAteer or the guys there, to go on to the careers of those 2 guys? I just had Anthony Gorman, when you were Finn Harps manager, the youth structure probably wouldn't have been the strongest part of the club. Things changes, and that's certainly one positive to note within the club.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things when I was at the club that sort of held the club back, that we didn't actually have structure in place at that time to bring players through. And you're relying on a lot of the hard work from the local clubs, and then you're trying to take the players then at 17, 18 years of age. But to be fair, since the development of the academy at Finn Harps, they have brought an awful lot of players through. They've been very successful too at underage level, with the likes of Joe Boyle being in charge, and Declan Boyle, and obviously headed up by Kevin McHugh. And there's a lot of players that have come through, and now they're the players that are shining in the Donegal League. But going back to the 3 lads that played in the World Cup, I mean, what an unbelievable achievement for them, and for the clubs that they've come through, and the performances of the players. I watched all the games in the World Cup, and Gavin McAteer was very unfortunate not to get more game time than what he did, because I thought when he did play, he was exceptional, and he brought something different to the team.
Yeah, well said, Anthony, well said. Well, Highland Radio's Mark Gallagher was speaking to the Finn Harps chairman, Ian Harkin. That was ahead of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. Chairman Harkin praised the hard work going on at underage level at Finn Park.
It's a huge testament to the amount of work that they themselves have put in, over the years, plus their families, and all of our coaches at Finn Harps that have given this opportunity to them, because getting there, it's all about being seen, and getting into our first team has been a big part of that. So the guys deserve to be there. Each of them, I think, between them, they have about 5,000 minutes of senior, men's football in them. At 17, 18 years of age, that's massive. To be able to do that, and there's not that many in the squad that have that amount of senior minutes. Most of them still play in the underage categories. There's a few exceptions with Shamrock Rovers maybe, but and Cork and Dundalk, but most of them are playing underage, which playing men's football is a huge step up to the pace, to the physicality of it.
That is the Finn Harps chairman, Ian Harkin, speaking with Highland Radio's sports producer, Mark Gallagher. Before we leave Finn Harps, Chris Ashmore, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Just one point to make, the whole area of belief, and I know speaking with Kevin McHugh and indeed several of the other managers and coaches, and this probably follows on nicely from the 3 guys getting selected for that World Cup team. that just because you're from Donegal doesn't mean that you can't aspire to be competing at the highest level. And that message has been filtered down through the club. And I know it's the same with the women's team as well. There may have been a case of, if you were playing Shamrock Rovers or Shelburne, oh, they're the big team from Dublin. But, those teams don't like coming up to play up at Finn Park. And people here, look, the pathway is there. You can be up there with the best, and you can go on and represent your country, and who knows at club level where it'll go as well.
Great motivation, great confidence there from Chris Ashmore. Before we leave Finn Harps, sad news coming on the 28th of August of this year. The sad passing of former Finn Harps manager Ollie Horgan. Ollie passed away after an illness at the young age of 57, a former school teacher at St Eunan's College in Letterkenny. He managed Finn Harps 354 times, dating from 2013 to 2022. The Galway native started off his managerial career at Fanad United in the Ulster Senior League. He led them to 3 league titles, and he also managed them at under 19 level, at national level. Anthony Gorman, he would have been a man that you would have come across on a few occasions at least.
Yeah, like my first introduction to Ollie Horgan would have been probably back in 88, 89. I was down in Galway and was watching the Collingwood Cup, and he was playing for, must have been the university team in Galway, and he was just, what you've seen. Ollie, he didn't change much over the years, and I remember relaying this story to him later on, and I was watching the game along with Seamus McDonough, who was the Galway United manager at the time, and Seamus, he was quite keen on signing him. And because of his swashbuckling style and 100% and flying himself into tackles, and I remember telling Ollie the story that McDonough was thinking about signing him. I don't think he believed the word I was telling him. I think I don't think he felt that Galway United were ever interested in signing him, but that was a true story. And then when he moved to Letterkenny, then shortly after that, and to St Eunan's College, and his first team that he managed was actually my brother Gareth's team, and I remember he took them to the All-Ireland final in 1990 at Tolka Park, and I remember being at the game. And the thing about why I remember when it was the same day as Manchester United played Crystal Palace in the FA Cup. So we watched the game at Tolka in the morning, and then we went to, I think they stayed in Ashbourne on the Friday night, and went back to their B&B on the way home and watched the final. So I've known Ollie a long time, never worked with him, and playing against him, obviously, like everybody else that would have played against Ollie Horgan, you fell out with him on the sideline, and there was a few expletives exchanged, I'm sure, but after the game it was always a shake of a hand and probably the offer of a pint, but what a loss, not just to football but to his family and his kids, and and I think looking back at this time at Finn Harps, I think it was a period for the club where they were very successful in terms of their promotions, and then the ability to build a team each year and stay in the Premier League. And I think that was what when Ollie was at his happiest, when he was building teams and then fighting against opponents to get points and that. So a big loss.
Chris Ashmore, many people would feel his time at Finn Park could be like a miracle work of what he achieved there. Would you go along with that?
Well, indeed, given the limited budget that Harps had compared with many of their rivals, to have so many seasons in the Premier Division was certainly a huge achievement. And Ollie's knack and his connections and his network of contacts was just incredible, because he pulled players from all over the place. Harps had guys coming from Malta, from Australia, you name it. Ollie had connections, and some of the stories were just quite phenomenal. His passion, his dedication was just unparalleled. I remember coming back from watching Harps in Wexford one night, and I met him in a petrol station in Kilmachannock in Wicklow, and he said he was going to Galway. I was going up to stay with my mother, and then on Saturday Sport here the next day, I rang him, and there was a game on in the background, but he'd somehow got from Wexford to somewhere in Scotland. He was watching a game. I think Cowdenbeath was, all I could manage to find out about it, but he'd gone over to watch somebody. That just typified, the effort and time that he put in. If he saw somebody and he thought there might be a possibility, well, he went for it. So, as Anthony says, a massive loss to the game, and he'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, and so say all of us. Moving on now to Derry City. It was Tiernan Lynch's first season in charge after a successful campaign at Larne. A second place finish for the Candy Stripes, just 3 points behind eventual champion Shamrock Rovers. But realistically, Rovers had the league wrapped up with a few games to spare. Anthony Gorman, would I be correct in saying winning the league next season will be the main goal for Tiernan Lynch's side, given the fact that they finished second this season?
Yeah, I think, when you look at the gap between the top two last year, Rovers finishing 66 points and Derry on 63, I think looking at that, it's a wee bit false in terms of the real gap between the two teams. As you said, Kieran, Rovers had the league wrapped up long before the end of the season, where they eventually got over the line and got the point that was required. But if Rovers had maintained their consistency throughout the season, they could have won that league by at least 10 points. But Derry, you look at Derry's season, and while they finished in second place, 4 points ahead of Shelbourne, I would still say that they'd be disappointed with their season, because over the course of the season they did lack that real consistency. They lost 9 games over the course of the season, and they were always going on a run where they'd won 2 or 3 games. Then they'd lose. Remember them losing games to Waterford and to Sligo, and that's the games that you really have to be picking up points in to really challenge Shamrock Rovers. But I think Rovers, they have that big a gap now between themselves and the rest of the league that it's going to be really difficult for other teams to close the gap. But Derry City, obviously, with the financial power they have, they have a really good squad of players, and they're the one team that I think can challenge Shamrock Rovers.
Chris Ashmore, what have you made of Derry City last season, and can they bridge that gap?
Well, that's the big question. I suppose they've kind of been knocking at the door the last few seasons. There's been a fair degree of investment in players, and as we look to 2026, they've already been quite active in strengthening their squad. So Tiernan Lynch, the first season maybe not under as much pressure as I think he will be this coming season, because when you're coming in your first season, there has to be a little bit of latitude. But this will be more of his team, because he's had a greater say in who's been coming in. So it's going to be very interesting to see just can they get up, can they pass out Shamrock Rovers and become top dogs in the league. It's going to be close again. It's a very, very competitive league. I think it's absolutely crucial that they get off to a good start. Perhaps they still do need an out-and-out goal scorer. They struggled at times last season to put the ball away, and it's going to be, they'll be fancied to be there or thereabouts, but as Anthony has said, they really do need to land that trophy.
Before we take a commercial break here in Highland Radio, Sunday Sport, time now to focus on local football. Letterkenny Rovers won the Brian McCormick Sports Premier Division this season, unbeaten, clinched it with a 2-1 victory at Ralph Mullen. That was back on the 6th of April. We have the Director of Football, Chris Wolfers, today, Anthony Gorman at Letterkenny Rovers. So Chris, we're going to let you take this one up.
Well, in any league, to go unbeaten all season is quite an achievement. And the Brian McCormick Sports Premier Division, everybody was out to try and get that first scalp to get Rovers, and yet they just kept on coming. And throughout the season, there was no doubt about it, they were the most consistent, and the momentum built, and there was great camaraderie amongst all the players. And there was the Cup success as well, and the Ulster Junior Cup, and of course the Brian McCormick Cup. Maybe the one disappointment, Andy, the FAI Junior Cup. I was there that day when Merview United beat you at Leckview, and it must be said, Merview played very well that day, and I thought they'd a chance of maybe going all the way, because they were hugely impressive. And that was probably just the one little blemish on the entire campaign. That was the one competition I suppose you'd love to have got a good run in.
Yeah, we're really disappointed with the Merview fixture, because we'd played them the previous year down in Galway and had won a really hard fought game 3-2. But on the day in particular, you're right, Maryview did play really well. But in saying that, we did have chances, and we can look back and say that we felt that Maryview's goalkeeper was the outstanding player on the pitch that day, because he made some really good saves and he saved the penalty. But in saying that, it doesn't take away from the fact that the time and effort that the boys put in and the people behind the scenes put into the football club last year, was well rewarded with the success with the league, the Brian McCormick Cup and the Ulster Cup. And that was 2 seasons where we were competing in all 3 fronts, and we were unfortunate to lose the previous year to Buncrana Hearts in the Ulster Cup final on penalties. So all in all, it's been a really good season, but nothing came easy, Chris. I know people look and think you've gone unbeaten, but believe you me, there was no easy games. I mean, Kieran touched on us winning the league down in Rathmullen, 2-1. Rathmullen, I think last season, scored 4 goals and they scored 3 of them against us. And it shows an awful lot about the quality that's in the league and the integrity in the league as well, that teams will keep going and keep fighting right to the very end.
And it was great for some of the, shall we call them, elder statesmen in the squad, because some of the guys more or less in the twilight of their career, and to have that high of completing the cup successes. Yeah,
I mean, you look at the senior players we have, like Mark Anthony, Keith Cowan, Chris Malseed, and it was fitting that they were the backbone and the spine of the team that we had, with their leadership, their experience, and obviously their ability to lead from not just from the dressing room but on the pitch as well. And all 3 players, but it is about, we talk about the senior players, but the younger players had a massive impact as well. And and one of the big things for us is, as a football club as well, when we can look back over the course of the season, is that the amount of players that have come through and played for us from underage right through. And we touched on Keith Cowan and Chris Malseed. Like, they played for Letterkenny Rovers at 11 years of age with Cathal James in the D&D. And after having good careers, Keith in particular at League of Ireland and Irish League level, these players to come back and see out their playing days with the clubs says an awful lot about them as individuals.
And Stephen McConnell, he was, he rotated the team a little bit. There was that strong squad there, and as we all know these days, it's not just about having the first 11. You need that strength and depth, and that's exactly what Rovers had. And right down to the end, as we mentioned there, you mentioned Rathmullen. They played Castlefin Celtic in the Brian McCormick Cup final, a side that on paper they should have beaten. Castlefin gave them a good run for their money. It went to extra time, and we have a clip here. Nathan Plum, well, he scored the winner in that final, and he alluded to the fact that the strength and depth was a huge part of the team's success.
Stephen will have a headache every week. Boys, quality boys, like training wise, these boys top squad. One of the best teams I've been a part of for sure. And listen, when you have those numbers off the bench on a sweltering hot day like this, it just makes all the difference. And the quality's there, and the boys, even if they're not starting, might be annoyed, but listen, their heads are on and we're all in this together, you know what I mean? And once you get the taste for winning, we're there for it, like, you know what I mean? So we, going out of the FAI Cup, it did hurt us, so we kind of got together, regrouped, and our clear aim for the end of the season was to win everything we can domestically. And listen, we've done it, and fair play to everyone who's been involved, backroom staff, underage coaches. Boys been playing here for the club for years. Boys are on about people coming in, but these boys have played for us underage right the way through, number of years, but it's class. It's just unreal.
And I suppose, Anthony, just before we round things up there, junior soccer in the county in a very good position at the moment. The Inishowen League, the Donegal League, very, very strong.
Yeah, and I suppose going back a number of years now, Chris, following the demise and the decimation of the Ulster Senior League over the probably about 10 years before it actually folded, when teams started to pull out of it, and them teams were filtering down into the Donegal League and obviously strengthened that league. And now we see obviously with the Ulster Senior League gone, and Letterkenny, Bunagee, especially going back into it in the last couple of years, have made it a more competitive league. And I know that this year, the games have been so much tighter, and I think that is down to the fact that everybody's getting better, everybody's raising their game, raising their standards, and I touched on it earlier on. There is no easy games at all in the Donegal League, and they are very, very difficult, and it is a competitive league.
And likewise, the Inishowen League, very strong league. Cockhill Celtic, once again, proving to be the dominant side there. Of course, Buncrana Hearts have had a couple of decent seasons of late, but Cockhill, as things stand, in a very strong position there at this stage of the season. Anthony, before we go for the break, just a few words on the new FAI National League, the third tier. Hugely significant. 3 Donegal clubs have been confirmed as founder members. 15 clubs selected. There'll be 5 more. 2 leagues of 10. There's a sort of a north-south split. So Letterkenny Rovers, Bunagee United and Cockhill Celtic. So we are going to have a pyramid now. You have your Premier Division, your First Division, and then this third tier. Most people in favour of it, and when you have that promotion and relegation, it means teams have a pathway.
Yeah, I think it's very important, for all levels of football that you do have the football pyramid and a pathway for your better players if they wish to develop and progress. And we've continuously talked to our underage players about providing a pathway for our players, and the proof of our pathway has been in the fact that so many of our first team players have come through the club, and this is just another side of it now, where we're getting the opportunity to play at a national league level, which is something maybe 10, 15 years ago nobody could have envisaged. I think many people would have hoped that we could have kept the Ulster Senior League alive, could have developed it, but unfortunately that wasn't to be. So I think when you see with Letterkenny Rovers, Bunagee and Cockhill being involved in the league, I think it's a credit and a testament to them football clubs that they have been invited into the league, and it's a reward, I suppose, for trying to develop their own clubs and to make them better and try and get their players to play at as high a level as possible. And you're right, there is a pathway. There's the possibility of promotion to First Division, but I'm sure I speak for all 3 clubs when I say, that's a long way away off for us, because obviously, the financial implications is one thing, the travelling, the commitment from players, and while we're making that step into the National League at level 3, I think we are a million miles away from getting to that stage where you're going to be looking to compete in the First Division.
Well, exciting and challenging times ahead there, and we'll be watching that with great interest. We're going to go for a commercial break now, and then we are turning our attention to athletics.
Thank you, Chris. My thanks to Anthony Gorman for coming into the studio live today. Great insight to 2025, and looking forward to your views ahead of the 2026 season in the not too distant future.
Highland Sports